This is a very interesting question. The second question in our in discussion is that of sources, and I have told you time and again that sources are very vital for our understanding. So we will discuss the second question of our PYQ, where we are dealing with this question on sources. Again, there's a match of following, right? And again, we are able to understand that they have not given us context, right? We have to identify the context in which these texts are to be understood. So, if you see all these four sources, they deal with very different periods. So, these sources are not really related to each other. So we have to understand these sources in an individual manner, in a separate manner, right? So one by one, we'll try to understand these all the themes. Abdullah, Badauni, Barni, Sizzi, Taruk Firoshahi, Tariq Daudi, Muntakabul Tawariq, and Fawad al Fuad. The high chance that you may not know all these options simultaneously, right? So you have to keep in mind the option that are there for us, and accordingly try to make sense that even if you know one or two of them, can you make a connection in the codes. ठीक है, अगर एक दो भी सही हो जाएंगे तो आपका पूरा आंसर सही होने के देयर आर चांसेस, बट इट इज अ डाइसी थिंग. ठीक है, सो बेटर बी प्रिपेयर्ड सो मच दैट यू नो ऑलमोस्ट ऑल द ऑप्शंस क्लियरली, राइट, एंड नॉट रिलाई ऑन गेस वर्क, right? Abdullah, Badauni, Berni, and Sizzi. So first we come to Abdullah, right? Abdullah is the author, the 16th century Persian author, historian who wrote the history of the rulers of Bengal, right? So he starts off with the history of Lodi, and he ends it with the history of the uh, the Daudis, Daudi ruler of Bengal, right? So Tariq-e-Daudi is a 16th century Persian text that deal with the Daudi ruler of Bengal, right? And it starts with the dynasty of Lodis. Uh, it tells you a lot about the Afghani history. It tells you a lot about, because Lodis were Afghanis, right? And that kind of an heritage is well represented in this particular work. So Abdullah is the writer of uh, Tariq-e-Daudi. Now, second option is Badauni. Badauni, as you know, Badauni was a very significant scholar in the court of Akbar, right? Akbar had many significant scholars in his court, right, who wrote many court accounts. One of them being Abul Fazl, who wrote the history of the Mughal Empire, history of the reign of Akbar, right, Akbar Nama. Ain Akbari was very significant part of it. Now, Badauni also wrote a book on Akbar's regime or regnal years, but the difference was while Aine Akbari was full of praise for Akbar, Badauni was highly critical. Right, he always felt unjust behavior on the part of Akbar, and he was critical about it, and so it took a lot of time for the book to be published. Right, so Badauni basically wrote his work in the late 16th century, which is called Muntakhab ul Tawarik. This was a book that was critical to the action, many of the actions of Akbar, right? And basically counterposed in relation to Ain Akbari. It's not as rich in data as Ain Akbari is, and therefore, not many scholars use it as a source of understanding Akbar's history, right? Because we already have a account of Akbar's regime in Ain Akbari, which is supposed to be the official account of Akbar. Right, Muntakab ul Tawarik was more of a dissenting account of this period. Right. Third, we find Barni, Ziauddin Barni. Ziauddin Barni again was a very prominent scholar who had a very long regime. He was associated with since the time of Balban when he was a child, right? And Balban till the decline of the Khilji dynasty, he also saw the development of the Mamluk, then the Khilji dynasty, Alauddin Khilji. But he became prominent during the regime of Tughlaq, right? But when Firoz Shah Tughlaq became the ruler, he lost his value, his power, right? And he spent a lot of time in prison as well. So Tariq-e-Firoz Shahi was not a work on King Firoz Shah. It is basically an account of the rulers of Delhi Sultanate from the time of Balban till the time of Firoz Shah. But because this book was written uh, in the year 1357, right, which was a regnal year of Firoz Shah Tughlaq. So it was ascribed to Tariq-e-Firoz Shahi to please him. It was a work that Ziauddin Burni wrote to please Firoz Shah so that he could get back his political power. Right. So 1357 CE was the year when Tariq-e-Firoz Shahi was written. Right. And but this process failed. He didn't get a lot of amenities from Firoz Shah. There's another Tariq-e-Firoz Shahi that was written by Shamsi Raza Afif during the reign of Firoz Shah, which deals with the regime of Firoz Shah only. Right. Burni has written a lot of treatises on political wisdom, and Tariq-e-Firoz Shahi is a book that deals with political wisdom in a very major way. Right. So Tariq-e-Firoz Shahi is written by Ziauddin Burni. And we are left with Sizzi, okay, who has written Fawadul Fuad. Now, this is a work which is not political text. All the other texts you find are basically court narratives, are all political narratives. But if you look at Fawadul Fuad, it is a work that deals with religious sermons, okay, of Nizamuddin Aulia. So basically, there was a very strong tradition कि जो मुरीद होते थे, शिष्य होते थे, they used to write down the accounts of the discussions of the murid of the pir, right? And they were compiled as compositions. So Fawaid al Huwad are the discussions, the dialogues of Nizamuddin Aulia, right? So Fawaid al Huwad is a major text on religious literature, on religious discussion, on Sufi discussion, on Sufi discourse, right? So what we see is the option then is A2, B3, C1 and D4, right? So we can basically associate. आपको ये क्वेश्चन को आंसर करने के लिए you have to go back to the Delhi Sultanate period as well as the Mughal period. So it actually takes a long chronology into account, right? So A2, B3, C1 and D4. This is the first option in our consideration is the right answer for you.